John Ridd. My name is John Ridd. My home is in Orr, a village in the county of Somerset in the southwest of England. My father was a farmer, and we owned a large farm which had been in our family for hundreds of years. We were not rich, but we lived very comfortably. I was the only boy in our family, and my father wanted me to go to a good school. He sent me to Tiverton School in Devon, the county next to Somerset. It was the largest school in the west of England. My story begins on the 29th of November 1673, my 12th birthday. My friends and I came out of school at 5 o'clock and saw a long line of horses coming down the road. The horses were carrying gold, and the gold was guarded by soldiers because a famous highwayman was in the area. I was very interested when I heard this. The highwayman, whose name was Tom Faggus, was my cousin. We all ran to the gate to see the soldiers pass. Just then, a man on horseback came round the corner, leading another horse behind him. "Have any of you seen John Ridd?" he asked. The man was John Fry, a servant at our home. I went forward and spoke to him. "John," I cried, "why have you come now? School doesn't finish for another 2 weeks." John Fry turned his eyes away from me. "I know that," he said, "but your mother wants you at home." He stopped suddenly, and this frightened me. "And father? How's father?" I asked. "He always comes to take me home from school." "Oh, he was too busy to come," said John Fry. He was looking at the ground as he said this, and I knew that something was wrong. I was very worried, but I went with him. We left Tiverton early the next morning. It is a long and difficult journey from Tiverton to Orr because the road crosses Exmoor, a large area of high wild land. There are marshes there, and it is often difficult to find the road. We crossed 2 rivers, and it was midday when we reached the town of Dulverton. We talked as we travelled, and I knew that John Fry was lying to me about my father. He did not want to tell me why I had to return home from school. At Dulverton we had lunch in a pub, and afterwards I went outside to wash. A young woman came out of the house and watched me. "Come here, little boy," she said in a foreign accent. "Your eyes are so blue. Your skin is like snow." "I'm sorry, madam, I must go," I said. "Then go, my dear. My name is Benita, and I'm the servant of a great lady. Can you tell me how far it is to the village of Watchet?" "Oh, it's a long way," I said, "and the road is as bad as the road to Orr." "Orr? Is that where you live? I'll remember that. Perhaps one day I'll come and look for you there. Now please fill this glass with water for my lady." I filled the glass and she went back inside. John Fry and I started our journey again about an hour later. After we had travelled some distance, we passed a big carriage with 6 horses going up a hill. In the carriage I saw the servant that I had met outside the pub. There was also a woman with a lovely, kind face, and a pretty little girl with wonderful dark hair. I took off my hat to them, and the woman waved her hand to me. We did not see them again because we turned off onto a side road and rode over the moor. The road got worse and worse, and soon there was none at all. Thick mist came down, and we could not see beyond our horses' heads. When the mist cleared for a moment, I saw a terrible sight. A man was hanging from the tree in front of me. My heart felt cold with fear. "Who's that hanging from the tree?" I asked. "Have they hanged one of the Doones, John?"
"Hanged one of the Doones?" said John. "Don't be so stupid. Even the king wouldn't dare to hang one of the Doones. No, that's only a thief called Red Jem."
We continued our journey. I wanted to know more about the thief. "Who was Red Jem?" I asked.
"Be quiet," he said. "We're near the Doones path now. It's the highest place on the moor. If they're out tonight, we must go quietly.
The dunes. Thieves, murderers and outlaws. The dunes of Bagworthy were hated and feared by everyone in Devon and Somerset. My legs began to shake.
"But, John," I whispered, "they won't see us in this thick mist, will they?" "They can see through any mist," said John. "God never made a mist thick enough to stop their eyes. Now go quietly, boy, if you want to live to see your mother."
We rode down the side of a deep valley and up the other side. Then I heard a frightening noise. It was the sound of horses' feet and the breathing of tired men.
"Get off your horse," said John in a low voice. "Let the horse go
behind
free."
a small tree on the hillside. I saw the first horseman pass on the path below me. Suddenly the mist cleared and a red light appeared.
"That's the fire on Dunkery Hill," said John in my ear. "They light it to show the dunes the way home."
I lay only a few feet above the heads of the riders. They were big, heavy men, more than 30 of them, with long boots and leather jackets, and they carried guns. Their horses were carrying the things that they had stolen. I could see cups made of silver, and gold, bags, boxes, and dead sheep. One man had a child lying across his horse. The child wore a beautiful dress, and it shone in the firelight. I felt very sad when I saw this, and I wondered what would happen to the child. When the men had gone, we continued our journey, silent and shocked. At last we reached the house, but my father did not come to meet me. At first I thought that perhaps he had guests, but then, I don't know how, I understood. I went away to hide, to be alone. I did not want to hear it. After some time I heard the sound of weeping. Then my mother and sister appeared, holding each other. I could not look at them, and turned away. My father was dead. He had been killed by the dunes. He was riding home from market with 5 other farmers. Suddenly a dune had appeared in front of them and demanded all their money. The 5 farmers began to look for their money, but my father had attacked the robber with his stick. Then 12 more of the dunes appeared and attacked my father. He struck down 3 of them, but one man, Carver Dune, had a gun and shot my father. The next morning my father was found dead on the moor with his stick under him. My father was dead, and now I had to be the man of the family. My mother was very shocked by my father's death, but I knew that she would be able to manage the farm. But legally the farm was mine, and my mother and my 2 sisters, Annie and little Lizzie, were my responsibility. I must explain who the Dunes were and how they came to Bagworthy. In the year 1640, 2 men owned a large amount of land in the north of England. One was a very clever man called Sir Ensor Dune. The other was his cousin, Lord Lorna. The 2 men owned the land together, and each man received half of the money that came from it. But Lord Lorna decided that he did not want the money. He wanted half the land. Sir Ensor refused to give it to him. They went to the courts of law in London and asked a judge to make a decision. The judge decided that the land did not belong to either of them. Although Lord Lorna lost a lot of money, he was still rich, but the judge's decision made Sir Ensor a poor man, and he became very angry. I do not know exactly what he did, but it was something very violent and wrong. Some people say that he killed someone. The courts made Sir Ensor an outlaw. So he searched for the wildest part of England that he could find. In Bagworthy on Exmoor, he found a valley with high walls of rock all around it, and he decided to live there. When he arrived, Sir Ensor had only 12 people with him, including his wife and sons. But as time passed, others joined him. At first, the Dunes lived peacefully and did not harm anyone. The farmers and country people knew Sir Ensor's story and were sorry for him. But then the Doones began to steal from the farmers and from travellers on the roads, and if a man fought them, he was killed. All the Doones were taught to shoot when they were children. People started to hate and fear the Doones, but they did not dare to attack them. I was only a boy when my father died, but I took my father's gun and taught myself to shoot with it. I had a secret plan. One day when I was older, I intended to kill the man who had killed my father. I intended to kill Carver Doone. Chapter 2. Lorna Doone. There are 2 rivers near our farm, the Bagworthy River and the Lynn. About 2 miles below our farm, the Bagworthy joins the Lynn, making one wide stream. This stream runs past high hills and through dark woods. It makes little lakes where there are fish. Sometimes in the summer I went alone to catch fish, and sometimes I went with my sister Annie. At 14 years old, I was very big for my age. Other boys laughed at my size, but they did not want to make me angry because I was strong too. When I fought another boy, I always beat him. One cold spring morning, I went out to catch fish for my mother. I hung my shoes around my neck and started to walk up a stream that ran near the farm. I went about 2 miles up the stream, but did not catch any fish. Then I came to a place where the stream was wider and colder. I had caught no fish, and I wanted to go home. I took out bread and meat from my bag and began to eat it. As I ate, I began to feel stronger, and I decided to go up the Bagworthy stream as far as the Doone Valley. It was a small decision, but it changed my life completely. The water in this stream was very cold. There were dark places under the trees which filled my heart with fear. But I found a lot of fish. I did not think about the time, but went farther and farther up the stream. I shouted happily when I caught a fish, and my voice came back to me from the hills. There was no other sound in the cold, quiet air. The country around me got hillier, with high rocks on either side of the stream. I came to an opening in the trees, and saw in front of me a pool of deep black water. It was a whirlpool, and the water went round and round very fast. I looked up at the high rock on the other side, and saw a clear stream of water falling down over the rock. It was a beautiful sight. I wanted to climb to the top and find out why the water came down like that. I put the fish in a bag around my neck and stood on a rock by the pool. But the rock was green and wet, and I fell into the water. I swam hard, but I was carried out, away from the rock, and I could not get back to it. I was very frightened, because by now I was near the bottom of the waterfall. I reached out to some rocks, and with great difficulty I managed to pull myself out. Then I looked around. The wall of rock around the waterfall went straight up. I could not walk round to the place where I had entered the water, but it was too dangerous to go back into the water. Looking closely at the waterfall, I saw that there was a space between the water and the rock behind it. I could climb up the rock to the top of the waterfall. It was dangerous, and if I fell, I would die. I began to climb, but I had no choice. The water fell a few inches from my body. The sharp rocks cut my feet, and my legs shook with fear, but I climbed up and up. Suddenly I felt fresh air and climbed faster until I fell onto grass. When I opened my eyes, I saw a little girl by my side. "Oh, I'm so glad," she whispered softly as I looked at her. "You will be all right now, won't you?" I had never heard a sweeter voice. I had never seen anything as beautiful as her dark eyes and thick dark hair. I thought of her then as a beautiful spring flower. Now, when I see a spring flower, I still think of her. Perhaps she liked my face too. She told me afterwards that she did. I sat up. "What's your name?" she asked. "How did you come here? And what have you got in your bag?" "They're fish for my mother, but I'll give you some if you want." "Oh, "You've hurt your feet," she cried, "and you have no shoes. Is your mother very poor, boy?" "No," I answered crossly. "We could buy this whole field if we wanted to. My shoes are in this other bag. But who are you? I've never seen anyone like you before." "My name's John Ridd. What's your name?" "Lorna Doone." Doone. To me the name was terrible. She was one of the Doones who had killed my father. But her voice touched my heart, and I could not hate her. Her beautiful hair fell down onto her shoulders. There were lights and shadows in her eyes, like sunlight in a deep forest. I stood up and touched her hand, and tried to make her look at me. But she turned away and started to cry. She was so ashamed of her name. "Don't cry," I said. "I'm sure you've never hurt anyone. I'll give you all my fish, Lorna, and catch some more for Mother. But don't cry." "Why did you come here?" she asked. "The Doones would kill us both if they found you here with me." "They wouldn't dare to kill you." "They would. They'd kill us both and throw our bodies into the water," she said. "Why?" I asked. "Because you found the secret way into the Doone Valley. They'd think I showed you the way. Now please go, please go. I like you very much, and I'll call you John if you like. When your feet are better, you can come and see me. I like you nearly as much as my sister Annie, and more than my sister Lizzie. I've never seen anyone like you. I'll come again tomorrow and bring you apples and a little dog." "Oh, they won't let me have a dog," she said. "There isn't a dog in the whole valley." "Put your hand in mine," I said. "You're such a little thing." Suddenly someone shouted down in the valley. My heart started beating fast, and the little girl's face turned white with fear. "Oh," she cried, "save me!" "Come with me. We can climb down the back of the waterfall." "No, no," she said. "They'll see us crossing the grass. Can you see that hole there near those bushes? There's a way out of the valley through that hole." I saw 10 or 12 men coming down the valley. I quickly jumped down to the edge of the stream and pulled Lorna after me.
"Queen! Queen!" the men shouted. "Where have you gone?"
"They always call me Queen," the little girl whispered. "I'll be Queen of the valley when I'm older." "Listen," I said quickly. "I'll hide in the water. You lie on the grass over there and pretend to be asleep." Lorna ran about 100 feet to a large rock and lay down, while I lay down in the water. Only my nose showed among the tall grasses. Soon one of the big men came round the corner. He stopped and looked at Lorna for a moment, then picked her up in his arms.
"Here's our queen!" he shouted. "Here's our captain's daughter!"
He put her on his shoulder, and the men went back down the valley. I waited, then went to the hole in the rock that Lorna had pointed to. It was as black as night, but I climbed inside it. It was smooth and narrow and very steep. I went very fast, almost fell, down a long dark passage, which brought me out at the edge of the whirlpool. I climbed out and looked back up the hole. I could see no light at the end of it. The passage was very smooth and steep, and I knew that I could not climb up into the valley this way.